Alright, so we got a bunch of new stuff here from RadioMaster. This video is going to be primarily about the new all-metal CNC gimbals. I'll be putting them into my TX16S here a little bit later in the video, but I just want to show you all the swag and just a huge amount of stuff they just send along. Obviously they're going on a sort of a marketing branding type of deal here. Yeah, I just want to show you really quick. You got some sunglasses, pretty nice. We'll talk about this wireless trainer in another video. Got a keychain, t-shirt. Got this cloth bag. This is actually for the TX16S. I'll link what I can down in the video description. I don't really know what is going to be where, so those links might be updated later. Got this set of, I think it's dampening oil and lubricating oil. These are for the gimbals. These you can buy separately, but they're also, I think they're also included in each set of gimbals. Got a large case and a small case. I think it can be used for whatever, radios or just FPV gear. Got a hat. Got this, this is the T8 Lite. So we'll have another video on this one later. I think that's just basically kind of like a cheaper version with less features. And then of course these LEDs for the gimbals, which I'm not going to be using, I'm not going to be installing in with the gimbals because I think the sticks are kind of too low with those installed. So I'll just kind of show you them a little bit later in the video. But I just wanted to show you everything that they sent. Pretty crazy. And we'll go ahead and get all this stuff off the table, and we'll talk about the gimbals and get them into the radio. Okay, so let's talk about the gimbal first before we install it. It's all metal in construction. You can buy these individually. In which case, I think one side will it'll just be the normal one, not the throttle side. Or you can buy them in a set, and then you get one that's going to be the throttle side with the basically the non-centering throttle, and then the normal one with centering gimbals on each side. And it comes in a pretty nice box. It's obviously very premium here. This is definitely not something you would need. I guess that's subjective. For someone like me, I'm not a gimbal snob, so I don't really care what the gimbals are like unless they're not working. I don't really mind if there's a little bit of jitter, but for some of you guys that are flying with a lot of precision and need that ultimate control, maybe especially for racing, something like this is going to be right up your alley. You're going to have a lot more precision. This gimbal won't have any kind of jitter. Of course, it's Hall sensor, but because it's all metal construction, it's extremely rigid and precise in all of the movements versus the standard gimbal in the radio, which is I think mostly plastic construction. One of the things that is kind of a downside, which I mentioned about the with the LEDs, is that the stick height is I think it's a little shorter. We'll see when it gets in there. Obviously you can raise this up, but I think because this is lower in the plastic here, in the plastic face, the LED makes it even lower, and then the stick will end up hitting the side of the radio here where the plastic is. So, which is why I'm not going to be using it. I like LEDs and everything, but it's not something that is really super important. And also, this is not my daily driver radio. You probably guys haven't seen this since I originally reviewed it. I don't use these big radios often. I just use them for testing. And, it's a good radio. It's just, I've been using the Jumper T-Lite as my daily radio because I like the lighter radio, the smaller form factor. I know that a lot of guys are still liking the bigger radios, and that's fine. It's just that's just not my thing anymore. It's a good radio. The gimbals on here are totally fine. If you haven't had any issues with them, there's really no need to upgrade. I don't want to be here selling these are expensive gimbals, but these are like $60 to $70 each. you know, this one gimbal here costs as much as my daily driver radio that I use every day for all my reviews. So just to give you a perspective on relative value, you know, this is a nice to have, but not a must have. And you know, it's, you know, if you got the money, this is going to be great. But if this is you know, out of your budget, you know, obviously this is not something you would necessarily need or require. But again, just going to show you everything here. It's all aluminum or CNC metal. Obviously there's some metal springs in there, screws. These are Hall sensor gimbal, or Hall sensors, not potentiometer sensors. But it's also pretty heavy as well. Can't really show that on screen. And you can adjust the height of the stick here. Obviously, these are adjustable like all their normal gimbals. These do have these adjustable screw holes in the front. These first appeared in, I think it was the Eachine TX16S, which is also made by RadioMaster, rebranded by Eachine. I don't know if the standard gimbals on the TX16S actually come with these adjustments in the front now. I've heard they do, but it also depends on the stock. So if some stores have older stock, you might get the older gimbals, the standard gimbals that you see here without those adjustments. But basically, using these screws, you can adjust the stick tension and also the stick travel. And you can consult the manual as to which ones do what. And of course, they provide the Allen wrench that's included in the kit to make those adjustments. Now, if you prefer a weaker tension on the springs, they do provide a set of springs that will make the gimbals feel more loose, which is probably something that I'm probably going to do. I'll do that off camera because these actually aren't too bad. They're a little stiff for my taste. You know, again, this is all subjective and preferential. But yeah, if you want a weaker spring tension, because you can adjust these down with the screws, but if you want them to be even weaker, they have a set of even weaker screws or weaker springs in the set. And then this is the dampening oil and lubricating oil, and this is for the throttle ratchet. So it would go underneath this metal bar here that's on this side here. Obviously this is the centering gimbal, so this is not actually activated, it looks like. But yeah, if you put some in there between that plastic piece and the metal bar, and that will lubricate that and give the throttle a smoother feel. So use that if you want. Okay, so I was actually able to make the spring tension adjustment with just the screw, and I actually did not switch the spring out, and that was able to actually make it loose enough to my preference. So I suppose you can go even more super loose if you actually swap the springs out and put the weaker springs in. So you can see this is the other one with the throttle, and then this one here is the centering one on both sides. And the way these go in, I believe, yeah, these screw holes that are kind of cut out on the side go on the inside of the radio on both sides. So, and then the potentiometer over where the gimbal or the signal wires, servo wires come out, that go on the outside. So should go something like this on the inside. So to get inside, obviously you want to take the battery out. I'm going to take these two cover pieces off. I think there's going to be these 4 screws here. That's a Phillips head, and then you have an Allen key screw, these 2 up here, and it should just open up. Okay, so the back cover will come off, and you just want to disconnect the speaker here. I think this is just 2 plugs here. Okay, so now you have access to the inside of the radio. We need to remove 4 screws for each gimbal. So this one here, this one, there's one over here, and there's one back here underneath this slider. So we're going to have to take the slider out to access that screw. Okay, I got all the 4 screws out so it's loose. I actually didn't have to remove this potentiometer, so I'm going to probably just stick that screw back in. And then got to unplug the wires for the gimbals here. They run underneath these other wires, so you have to be careful not to damage these. Yeah, and it just comes out, so yeah, I didn't have to remove this potentiometer, but getting that screw back in might be a little bit tricky. So this is obviously the throttle side here. It's reversed because we're looking at from the back side. But just comparing the old one to the new one, the old one's so much lighter. You know, this is all metal. This is mostly plastic, of course. And just looking at this construction, you can see it's not flimsy, but it's flexible. So, you know, the gimbal has a little bit more, you know, give in it, so that's probably why it's not as precise as the metal one. Still very good gimbal, a Hall sensor of course, but not quite as nice as the metal one. Okay, I think you have to also remove this little CNC faceplate here that goes with the plastic gimbal. And again, these holes here that have the little cutouts, they go on the inside, so it should go like this, and then the metal throttle ratchet goes on the right, and along with the wires, they go on the right side, or on the outside. But before I actually put that gimbal there, I just want to show you real quickly, this is what the LED looks like. And so this little piece here is like a translucent ABS plastic, is where the light will go through, and that's how you'll see that ring. So it attaches to the LED, attaches to that plastic piece like this, and then you plug it in on the board. I think it's this one here, if you're wondering. So the gimbal plugs in here, and this is where the LED light plugs in. You see it's open on this side over here, but you would put this in, I think it would go in like this. Yeah, let me try the other one. Yeah, it's a kind of a tight fit, but you would go in like there, and then you would put the gimbal on top of that. But because it basically recesses the gimbal by that amount, it just makes the stick feel more inside the radio, and it's going to rub on the plastic faceplate. So that's why I'm not going to be putting these in. I'm not going to be using these. Yeah, just holding the gimbal. I haven't screwed it in yet, but you can see here, you know, I'm just holding it in place, and you can see where the stick, even here, almost touching the side of the radio here. Obviously, I'm gonna probably raise the sticks here when I use it, but with it more recessed, it's gonna rub against that plastic. Okay, so I got the gimbal screwed in. You want to make sure that the screws here on the right side or on the outside, there's like an indentation. You have to sort of level it out, otherwise they won't screw in. Also, be careful, these are metal screws going into plastic, and you don't want to over tighten them, and because they're self-tapping screws, they will strip out the plastic, and then you'll be in a little bit of a pickle, so be careful of that. So we're going to have to run the wire back through the same way under these wires here and plug it in. Alright, so this is what the wire should look like. Alright, so this is what it looks like here, all installed. It's very nice. And just kind of comparing, it's hard to see, but comparing the stick height stock, it's lower here on the metal gimbal versus the stock gimbal. You can make this taller. You can also switch out the stick ends, of course, with something else. And it doesn't look like it is rubbing at all, which is good. And in terms of the feel, yeah, it's just the metal one does feel just a little bit better to me. In terms of flight performance, I don't know if it's going to make any difference at all. But yeah, if you're looking for smooth sticks, this is definitely best of the best. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll swap out the second side now. Okay, so I got the second one in and plugged in. So I want to make sure you route the wires in such that they're not interfering with the gimbal travel. So you want to test that here. Make sure it's not getting in the way. And here's what it looks like. Super nice. They're very nice looking gimbals and they feel pretty awesome. So to put it back together, you just reverse the steps of taking it apart. I'm not going to show you all that here. Okay, so after you put the radio back together and everything looks like it's working, you need to calibrate the gimbals. That's the last step basically, and then you should be good to go. So just press the system button. Page over to the hardware page. And then hit calibration, and then enter to start. Center all your sticks and the potentiometers, as well as I think this one is also a potentiometer. And the dials. And hit enter. Then you want to move the sticks around. You don't want to slam them to the side, just hit the maximum. And hit enter. That should be it. So if we bring up the channel monitor, you can see that the throttle should be nice and calibrated. Negative 100, positive 100. And then all of the sticks should center very precisely. I want to check for that. That's one of the advantages of this metal gimbal, is it'll center pretty much perfectly every time. You can see, yeah, perfect centering here. I think the sticks are a little low for my taste. I'm going to raise them up a little bit, but the feel is fantastic, and I like the fact that everything's adjustable. You can also adjust the travel if you don't like, especially on the throttle. If you want a little bit less throw in the throttle, you can do that, because sometimes going all the way up is a little hard. But that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Links to all this stuff down in the video description. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one.